Quack why, ni don't bak. Hello, my friends. De Louise Sozap, Alanoki da Hozid. My name is Joseph, or the Peaceful One. And Dai Salatogi Alanobi Zombik, da Ladalondagan. I'm of the area we call Saratoga, or the Medicine Spring Place, in the Adirondack Mountain foothills of New York State. Alnoba Nia, a human being, is what I am. Ta Kiak, as are all of you. Quack why, ni don't bak. Hello, my friends. I have to say that I love the Boulder bookstore. Every time I am Colorado bound, I'm thinking of which bookstores I'm going to visit, and the Boulder bookstore is one of the ones high on my list. In fact, as I recall, it was at the Boulder bookstore that I saw my dear friend Gary Snyder give a reading a number of years ago, and it was so funny because I had just come from California at the Sierra Storytelling Festival, and the person who was assigned to me to be my host to drive me around was one of Gary's sons. And Gary's son had said to me, I told my father not to read that poem, The Bath, anymore. So at the bookstore, someone said, Gary, could you read The Bath? And Gary said, oh no, I'm under strict orders from my son never to read that poem in public aloud again. Boulder Bookstore, great place. A Year of Moons was written during the pandemic at a time when I couldn't travel, to do programs, although I began doing things online eventually. But every day when I got up, I would take a walk with one or both of my dogs. And as we walked, I would observe what was happening around me and I would dictate things into my phone, sometimes a poem, sometimes something I was observing. And I began posting some of these online on my on my Facebook account. And then after I had enough of them, I realized that it was something that kind of reflected the experience of an entire year and the way we talk about the yearly cycle in indigenous cultures in North America is often in terms of moons. That is, when the strawberries are ripe, we say the full moon for that month is the strawberry moon. When it is the time of harvest, it might be the green corn moon. And I had put these together and arranged them in terms of moons, and the result was the book that I came up with, A Year of Moons. There's lots of plants and animals that connect with me at different times of the year. Actually, the bear is my family's totem animal. I'm wearing a bear claw around my neck right now. And bears are very important to me. In fact, we have a bear that's been visiting us for 7 years now. And I was just out in my backyard late last night bringing in the bird feeders, and there was Barry standing there just about to take one of the feeders. And I said, sorry, Barry, I'm here. You have to leave. So he walked off into the woods. Only about maybe a 300-pound black bear. But the idea that we are often afraid of the natural world is something I'd like to provide an antidote for. The natural world could be dangerous, but more dangerous if we are foolish. And there's much more dangerous in the so-called civilized world than there is in walking in the forest and observing what is there and seeing it. What happens one time of year, you'll see there are certain flowers blooming. Another time of year, certain birds return from the Southland. And then the time comes of frost, and the land changes and turns white, and the tracks of animals are everywhere telling their own stories. Well, this is what my life is like, and I reflect that in A Year of Moons. Certainly, our word for the area we call New England is Ndakina, which means our land or our place. We're called Abenaki or Wabanaki people. We are people of the dawn land. Ki is the suffix, which means earth or land or soil. And the way we describe things is often in a way that helps us see things better. For example, we might refer to a certain bird. You call the chickadee as jigajigi, which is the words it speaks. Jigajigi is the chickadee. Or the word for moose. Moose means the strange one in the Abenaki language, but also could mean the angry one. And when you are angry, we sometimes say you are moose walda. You are behaving like a moose, not behaving in a logical way. So you can see just in those few little things I've given you relating to the language, you may actually see things somewhat differently. For example, our word for thank you is Uli uni. Uli means good. Uni is returning, which is I return good to you for the good you gave to me. Or one of our common greetings when we see someone, either a friend or someone we've never met, we'd say, Pakwano Guisian, which is you appear new to me. And that could be someone you know already because we're always growing and changing as the language reminds us. And even when I see myself in the mirror, I might say, Pakwano Guisian, you appear new to me. I do find something to love at every time of year. There's always a new surprise for you to see, but I am particularly fond of the autumn. I love the clarity of the light. I love the scents, the odors that are in the air. And I love everything that's coming into fruition and the harvest that is there for us. And I was born in October, so I guess you could say I'm prejudiced toward the Pibonkas Kisos, the time when the leaves fall. Well, I think that A Year of Moons is a book that is like a lot of the things I wrote, meant to be read out loud. I like to try to get the cadence of the spoken word in my writing. And even though it's in the form of prose with occasional poets, I think it's like prose poetry or similar to prose poetry. At least I hope that's the case. You could sort of open it up anywhere and say, take that one Sunday afternoon, exactly 5 years ago in late July, when jet lagged and semi sentient after a 4 a.m. departure from Oklahoma, still living on Tulsa time, I just stumbled up the ornate steel staircase of the then recently opened Northshire bookstore in Saratoga Springs. I just did a plug for the Northshire inadvertently, but that the cadence of what I read, you can sense that idea of the importance of each word to me in whatever I write. As we drove through the deepening dusk, my son Jesse and I were talking about the usual things. The story Tom told about getting his moose car, the multiple meanings of the native place names we passed, the differences between Western Abenaki and Passamaquoddy, the importance of being able to invert during my roles as a 75-year-old black belt, typical father and son stuff. We were also making the kind of silly remarks to each other that used to make my late wife Carol say, Joseph, stop it now, such as, think the border between New Hampshire and Maine will be open? Or, hey, we're going to have to pay duty on those potatoes we're importing? Or, oh no, that sign said no out of state firewood. What are we going to do with this box of matches? Or, looking at the dotted line drawn across the map on our GPS marking the border, make sure we don't steer in between those lines when we enter the state. Don't want a collision. So that's a little bit from a journey that my son Jesse and I were taking, which showed his way into the book. And humor is very important to me. I think we don't take humor seriously enough. We take ourselves too seriously.